Syria, a once prosperous and wealthy land. In the arid Middle East, Syria is one of the few exporters of agricultural products. Before the Syrian civil war erupted, agriculture constituted 26% of Syria's GDP. In 2011, Syria produced 3.85 million tons of wheat annually. However, by 2021, this figure has dropped to a mere 2 million tons. The UN World Food Programme estimates that 12.4 million Syrians, almost 60% of the population, now food insecure. To examine the tragic shift from the breadbasket of the Middle East to a land of famine, secretive moves made by the US have played an irrefutable role in this humanitarian crisis in Syria. When the Syrian civil war broke out in 2011, the US and other Western countries took advantage of the situation for invasion. The US first provided support for proxies attempting to subvert the Syrian government. Later on, the US made a more obtrusive move by intervening directly by force on the grounds of fighting terrorism. Protracted artillery and airstrikes have left infrastructure and arable land in many regions of Syria in ruins. War-torn areas such as Aleppo in northwestern Syria and Deir ez-Zor in the southeast have witnessed a drastic reduction in crop production as farmland diminishes, which has directly triggered a nationwide food crisis. In April 2017, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations released a report that, for the first time, presented a nationwide assessment of the impact of war on Syria's agriculture. The report showed that the war has caused up to $16 billion in losses to Syrian agriculture. Less than half of the 2011 rural population still lived in rural areas in 2016. And that nearly two-thirds of Syrian farm households interviewed reported a lack of agricultural infrastructure, such as fertilizers, pesticides, and irrigation systems. Syria's agriculture sector has been hit hard by the war, yet the remaining crop faces looting by US forces. In recent years, it has come to light that the illegal US military presence in Syria has frequently used convoys to transfer oil and wheat from al-Hasaka to northern Iraq for sale at a profit. This move has also directly contributed to Syria's energy and food crisis. The Syrian government has repeatedly condemned the US, calling its actions in Syria robberies of national nature. And the Syrian people have exclaimed that the presence of the US is unbearable. In November 2021, the United States Agency for International Development claimed to have distributed some 3,000 tons of wheat seeds to farmers in northeastern Syria. However, according to the Syrian Arab news agency, Syrian agricultural authorities found through sampling and testing that 40% of the wheat seeds sent by the US contained wheat nematodes. Plundering while poisoning. This is so-called US humanitarian aid. In addition to the use of force and plunder, the US also continues to rub salt into the wounded land of Syria through sanctions. In December 2019, America's then President Donald Trump signed the Caesar Act, expanding the scope of sanctions to almost all sectors of Syria's national economy and people's livelihood, under a pretext of enhancing the protection of civilians inside Syria. The harsh economic sanctions have impeded Syria's reconstruction plan and perpetuated the country's food crisis. For many years, the US has been behind the war and chaos in the Middle East. It has been holding high the banner of human rights, but frequently waging wars, inciting conflicts, stirring up political storms, and abusing sanctions. This has resulted in the economic and social devastation of many countries and the endangering of people's livelihoods. starvation, and more. All the solid facts prove that the US is the most hideous human rights abuser in the Middle East.